So I get lots of questions about the Puerto Rico real estate market. And so today I have a special guest, Evaristo Gonzalez, who is the ReMax master franchise owner of the entire island. Welcome, Evaristo.
Hey, thank you, Diane. Very grateful to be here with you.
So tell me, how's the weather in Puerto Rico right now?
Well, the 365 days, sunny and shining.
I guess that's why people move there, right?
Definitely, they want to have summer all times.
Let's dive right in. So how has the real estate market recovered since Hurricane Maria?
Even though it was a very sad moment for us, very disturbing, it helped the real estate industry because, as you can see, a lot of people lost their houses. So they knew they need a new house. They need a new roof to live. So it was a disruptive market. And then suddenly we have hundreds, thousands of people without houses that we need to solve the problem. So it was, for the real estate side, it was a blessing, we'll say, because we have a lot of work after that. Besides that, there was a lot of funds coming in from federal government, a lot of help from the ARP money. So there was a lot of people who changed houses and got new titles on new homes, more secure. It was also, a wake-up call for us on the construction market to build houses with more secure for our people. So it was, we haven't recovered completely, but it was, we're in a way of it. We're in a wait.
So that's interesting that you had this big shift after the hurricane. And I want to ask you also about COVID and how that impacted it. I'm curious, though, based on what you just said, here on the mainland after COVID, we saw this huge burst of activity as everyone decided that wherever they were stuck was not where they wanted to be. And so there's been this huge changing of homes. I'm wondering, has COVID affected you in a similar way, or?
It did. It definitely did. People rediscovered that they need new places to be, and their house was going to be like their prison. They have to be in jail. So you want to be the most comfortable that you can. So they rediscovered that probably they need new places with outdoor space within their quarters that they can get out. Places with backyards, pool, terraces. So there's a lot of people who change, their mind about the house because now it's going to be, they were living there 24 hours. There was no work. The working hours, the 8 to 5 was in the house, and then the pleasurement hours was in the house too. So they need to make it as more comfortable, or either move out to new places. And also there was a lot of people coming in back from the States, people who were going on retirement already. So they advanced probably retirement plans, and they came to Puerto Rico on this. So COVID also was an advantage for us in the real estate market because investors were coming, retirement people were coming, and the people who already owns houses in Puerto Rico, they want a bigger house. They want a different place. So there was a lot of movement. Also, it did help the rental market. People who lost their houses from Maria, it did some rental for a year period or 2 year period. And so it was very useful for us as real estate markets.
So how would you characterize the market right now in San Juan?
There's no inventory.
Really?
Everyone can tell you that there's no inventory. Also, we have the situation that because of federal regulation, there was no foreclosures. So whatever we have in the foreclosure inventory, in Puerto Rico, usually there's from 4,000 to 5,000 foreclosures every year. So imagine, no foreclosure for a year was a scarce of 5,000 new units that were coming to the market. And then we sold mostly, I'll say probably 80% of our foreclosure inventory. So not having any foreclosure at all for the whole year, I think it's up to February 28th. Actually there was news on the paper today that they are planning to extend it to March 31st. They're forbidden on foreclosure. So probably we will see not too many units coming in for inventory. So there's a scarce inventory, and whatever we have is sold already. Like, for example, I will tell you in Guaynabo, the area where I live, which is near the metropolitan, is part of the metropolitan area. Usually houses run from 350 to half a million. You cannot see anything. And we have a list of about 10, 15, 20 people looking for that type of houses, and there's no inventory at all. Yeah.
Wow, interesting. You know, I remember driving around Puerto Rico a couple of years ago when I was there, and there were a lot of abandoned homes. You know, are there, because of the lack of inventory, is there any movement to kind of reclaim those?
Yeah, actually, most of those homes were probably inheritance problem, legal problems that the house has. You cannot find sometimes inherited people who owns the home, but now the cream, what we used to be, what is that the department of the government who take care of the ID of the houses and the tax IDs. They implemented a new platform. Actually, I think I began to start in February, who's going to identify those type of homes and try to solve the problem. We need inventory. We need new construction. But in the meantime, the new construction comes in. One of the solving of the problem will be that, identifying those homes and put those ones on the market. Yeah, that's another one.
Interesting. So I know with mainlanders coming to the island, some of the popular areas besides San Juan are Dorado, Rincon, and Palmas del Mar. And if there's any others, please throw them in. But how are those markets doing?
They're blooming. They're blooming, especially Rincon and Rio Grande, which is near Palmas del Mar. Rio Grande is another town. It has a lot of beach complexes, and they're blooming. And prices are going up on those areas because of the low inventory. It's actually a seller's market right now. We just changed from a buyer's market to a seller's market in a couple of months. It was a complete reversal of what we were seeing before. So especially Dorado, also there was, because of Act 2022, so a lot of investors coming into the island to take advantage of that act of the revenue, tax revenue. So that they go to places like Dorado, Palmas del Mar, who has beach access, beautiful houses, beautiful apartments, nice hotels nearby, the best schools nearby for their kids. So those markets are blooming right now. Blooming. You cannot find, it's rare to find a good deal on those towns right now. But there's still people who are selling and people who are buying. So, whoever wants to pay the price, there's the property.
Interesting. So I get a lot of interest from people who are looking to retire in Puerto Rico. And if they're not ready to buy, or if there's no inventory, how is the rental market, the long-term rental market? Are they able to find properties, or is that a challenge as well?
Well, it's kind of a challenge as well, too, because as a scarce of inventory for selling, there's also a lot of people, like I say, when Maria came in, probably I'll say 5,000 to 7,000 people lost completely their house. They were inhabitable, so they had to rent. So 2 years ago, the rental market went blooming again, and most of the inventory that wasn't for rental, which is usually 7,000 to 10,000 houses a year, they're already rented. So what we see right now is an increase on the short-term rental. Some people are doing short-term rental, which wasn't not a good market prior Maria or prior years ago. And now is another blooming market, the short-term rental market.
So if you have a mainlander who's maybe looking to invest in the island, perhaps to have something that cash flows, and then years later, maybe they move into it, I don't know. Where are the opportunities for investors on the island right now?
Well, there's a lot of investors coming in. The opportunities is definitely also coastal towns are the best ones. Those are your best bet because you'll have access to the beach, 10 minutes to the beach, 15 minutes to the beach. So mostly coastal towns, especially the North Coast, which is the most developed one. But there's a huge opportunity, and we're seeing a lot of people coming into the South Coast. Towns like Patilla, Naguabo, Yabucoa, we were towns that were kind of forgotten before. Now they're blooming. There's a lot of people coming in. And a funny thing that I always tell, most of the people who comes to Puerto Rico comes to San Juan and the metropolitan area. They don't travel outside. And San Juan and the North Coast, our beach, is the Atlantic Ocean. So the Caribbean Sea is on the South Coast. So they come to the Caribbean, they never see the Caribbean Sea because they don't go to the South Coast. And that's funny. I was telling, I used to kind of a joke. You came to the Caribbean, but you haven't seen the Caribbean Sea yet. So those towns now in the South Coast, which is where the Caribbean Sea is, they're blooming. They're blooming. We have properties that we're selling for a year or 2 years, and now inventory doesn't last 30 days, 45 days, and they're gone. So there's a lot of people also buying distressed properties on the South Coast to rebuild them and convert it into Airbnbs. Yeah.
Interesting. So I had someone tell me that they had driven through Ponce recently, and they were just kind of shocked at what a ghost town it seemed to be. There were no people, nothing going on. How is Ponce doing, and how are the businesses doing given this whole COVID thing? And, the picture you're painting sounds fantastic, but how is it on the street with the businesses?
Right now, same as in the United States, when you go to New York back 3 months ago, 6 months ago, Times Square was empty. So, right now here, but Ponce is a very distinctive town. Ponce is our second city after San Juan in populations and in economy. And it seems like a ghost town. It seems a lot of commerce has gone. A lot of merchants has gone from the outside territories of Ponce. And then they have lost a lot of income in patentes and tax income for businesses. So, yeah, Ponce, I will say, is still count the town. It hasn't refurbished or renewed like the way it should be. There was now, I don't want to get into politics, but right now there was a change in the government, political government who runs Ponce. So probably we will see a new change or a new development in Ponce. They have also the Puerto Las Americas, which is a huge development seaport that they've been trying to rebuild and, for decades. So right now, probably they gave a new way for Ponce to rebuild themselves and, get into its glory, because it was a very glorious town.
Yeah, the town square is beautiful, and I know they have that big parade every year. We went to it one year. It was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, the carnavales.
That's it. Yeah.
February.
So, all right. Well, if you're a mainlander coming to the island, or even a Puerto Rican who's been in the U.S. for years and you're coming back, what do you need to know about buying in Puerto Rico that's different than the mainland?
Well, there's not too much difference. Remember, we are a territory, and as a territory, we have a lot of federal regulations. I'll say 80% of the population in Puerto Rico speak English very well. We have a very talented and professional workforce. In Puerto Rico, the financial system is very strong. It's similar to in the United States. We used to have banks like Citibank, Chase, established here. We don't have anymore. Most of them are only on commerce, on merchant sites, but it's almost the same except for the closing. In the United States, at the closing, you don't have to be present. In Puerto Rico, by law, both parties, the seller and the buyer, needs to be present physically at the transaction or by the power of attorney. But someone has to come. So that's the main difference, I will say. Our closings are done by an attorney, so everything is very clear and legal. Our public records and the recording of the deed is done immediately, 24 hours after you do the buy or the sell. So it's a very clear and transparent process. It's not too complicated. You get a clean title deed immediately, and if it's financed, the bank will take care of everything. And like I say, it is a lawyer, a notary who does the closing in Puerto Rico, not a title company like in the United States. And that's the main difference. I would say that our closings are done by a lawyer with the bank, or a cash, if it's a cash transaction, also done by the lawyer. But it's a very clear and professional. Investor doesn't have to have any fear or any troubles getting a good title deed in Puerto Rico recorded. Yeah.
So my experience, and this was great, it was that there are banks that will lend on properties in Puerto Rico. And I was able to get a loan through First Bank. Generally, my experience was that the lending costs were about a point higher than the mainland at the time I did it. This was years ago. Is that still the case, or?
No, not actually. I will say, I don't want to give you numbers exactly, but our closing cost runs about 2% of the property value. So if you're buying, let's say, a property that is around $300,000, closing cost will be $5,000 to $6,000. And it also will depend on the interest rate that you get. As lower the interest rate, as in the States, higher the closing cost, but as higher the interest rate, you can get a lower closing cost. But I would say it's at one point, same as the States. Yeah, basically.
So what's the best way to find good properties on the island, especially given the inventory shortage?
Now you can get good properties, like I say, outside the metropolitan area. That's your best bet. Towns like Calle, Caguas, Guaynabo, Gurabo, Yabucoa, Patilla, towns that are about 45 minutes from the metropolitan area to our main airport. Fajardo is a very good, very excellent town to get properties right now, Rio Grande. But I would say outside the metropolitan areas, you can still get good properties deals, definitely.
How about Vieques? What's going on over there?
Oh, that's beautiful. Vieques is a very special town, and Culebra. Even though they are towns, because they are outside the mainland, Viequenses and Culebrenses are very patriotic and very proud of their heritage, and it's not too easy to get into there. But yeah, there's a lot of Americans in Vieques established and in Culebra, but their market has been blooming since, always. Vieques and Culebra, if you can get a nice piece of land in there, it's going to be costly. It's not cheap. It wasn't cheap either before, or is it not now? Yeah, you can find houses in Vieques for $1 million, million and a half, 2 millions. Beautiful, houses that probably in St. Bart's or St. Thomas would cost you 3 millions. Here it costs you half the cost. But yeah, we have markets for everyone.
Yeah, I remember when Vieques was a lot cheaper than that.
That's an erroneous thing. Sometimes people think it is, but it's not. It's not. They're very proud of their land, and they don't sell it cheap. Let me tell you.
Well, once you make an offer, how long does it take to actually go through the escrow process? And I know the contracts are structured differently. You have a purchase option versus a purchase agreement. So how long does it take to go through that process?
Once you have an offer accepted already, it all depends. If it is a cash offer, we just need to do a research of the title and then get everyone together. It will take 15 to 30 days on a cash offer. If it's finance right now, usually we can do it in 30 days to 45 days. Now the time frame has increased a little bit because there's a lot of refinancing on the banks right now because of the low interest rate. It's historic low interest rate. You can get 2.75, 2.5. So there's a lot of people are refinancing, and because banks are not working physically on their office, they're working still remote because of the COVID. I would say 45 to 60 days, the longest 90 days on a finance property. So it's not that bad. If you had all the documents, if the property is fine on the legal terms, it shouldn't take you more than 45 days on a finance property. If it is cash, 15 to 30 days.
And then what are property taxes like there on the island?
Oh, here in Puerto Rico, compared to the United States, we have property in the United States, and we know the difference in taxes. The property taxes here are very, very low. Like, for example, an apartment that costs 150,000, I'll say 1,200 is going to be the property tax a year. A luxury apartment probably that costs $1 million, probably 7,000 a year, 5,000 a year. Property taxes are very, very reasonable. We'll say, instead of cheap, they're very reasonable in Puerto Rico. That's another thing investors like it, and they prefer, because the property taxes here are very, very low.
So where would you suggest people look if they're looking for cheap retirement living on the island? What are your favorite spots?
I would say the interior, we call San Juan is the metropolitan area. So we call everything outside San Juan the island, La Isla. So going to La Isla, going to the island, outside the metropolitan area, definitely. And we have, metropolitan areas is Bayamón, Carolina, Guaynabo, and San Juan. Those 4 towns comprehend the metropolitan area, because San Juan is just a small, tiny piece of land where all San Juan is, and connected to the mainland. But usually I would say get into the island, get into the north coast, get into the south coast. Like I mentioned it before, towns like Patillas, Yabucoa, Naguabo, Humacao, which are coastal towns on the south, on the Caribbean Sea. You can still find a real nice house that you can convert into an Airbnb for less than $100,000. So I would say also, for people who like the country, our mountain towns are beautiful. Towns like Ay Bonito, Calley, Lares, Lajas, those are towns that are very beautiful. The mountains are so green. There's so much flowers. There's so much rivers, lakes. We have everything. Puerto Rico, that's one of the things I like in Puerto Rico. You can get from a coastal beach scenario into the mountains with lakes and rivers and hikes in less than 45 minutes. Where you can see that, where you can get that, anywhere. And with good roads, we have excellent roads in Puerto Rico. We have a good infrastructure already built about 20, 30 years ago that's still functioning. And, it's amazing. Like, how can you change scenarios in just a 45 minutes road trip?
So are you telling me they fixed all the potholes on the island?
They did.
Really?
They did. Actually, they did, and they're working on it. It was funny because last week we have a change in same political party still in government, the PNP, but there's a lot of towns that change, and one of the towns that changed political parties was San Juan. It used to be Carmen Yulín. It used to be the mayor. Right now it's Miguel Romero, which is from the PNP, Partido Nuevo Progresista, which is the same one as for the island. So they, how political side, they offer, but it seems Miguel Romero is starting with a good fit, and you can see the work. You can see the work, and people are talking about that they're seeing that brigadas from the public department are coming to fix the holes and to renew the carreteras. And also there's a lot of federal money coming into Puerto Rico for reparations and for new construction. So we'll see on the next 5 years, 10 years, a new rebirth in Puerto Rico. I can assure you that.
So it sounds like there are a lot of people coming in. If you had to characterize the different groups, who are they?
A lot of retirement people are coming back. People who left Puerto Rico to New York back in the 40s and in the 50s, they are already on their retirement age, and they always miss Puerto Rico. You know, they they can be living in New York for 45 years. We call them New Yorkers, but they always want to go back. And the funny thing is, they were not from San Juan. They were from tiny towns in the center of the islands. So they're coming back to their hometowns. And, you know, they come with money. That's another good thing, with good retirement money. And they're invested in the island. But also young entrepreneurs are coming to Puerto Rico with startups. They're because, you know, is our tax system for them is affordable. And there's a lot of help from the government because we have federal help here besides the local government help. So there's a lot of new startups coming in Puerto Rico, platforms developed. We have a pilot 151. We have a lot of entrepreneurs from the Silicon Valley who are coming to Puerto Rico to develop their platforms. And you know, every kind of people, not only old people are coming to Puerto Rico. There's a lot of young professionals who are coming to Puerto Rico to make their living here. Yeah.
So one last question then. If you could tell people who are interested in moving to the island, if you could just sort of set their expectations of, you know, just kind of what they need to prepare for in searching for a place to live, what would you tell them?
Okay, first of all, I would say get professional help, contract a realtor, get someone who knows the island, you know, doesn't wander by yourself. It's safe. It is safe, but you know, when you get professional help, get a good lawyer for Act 2022, and like I say, hire a realtor that can help you find the perfect property, who knows the process, which is not too complicated, but you know, it's going to be easier. You will save a lot of steps when you have a professional, as a real estate agent or a lawyer that will guide you and will help you through the process. And have all your paperwork ready. You know, they will ask you for the tax returns, same thing as the United States. They will ask you for the proof of income. You know, have all your paperwork ready and clear. Your bank statements. You know, there's no hiding process. There's no hiding fees here. You know, everything is doing like in the States, very professional, very by the rule. Lawyers involved, realtors involved, professionals from the bank industry involved. So I would say hire, you know, or get advice from a professional. So it will make you the process easier and very fine for you.
Excellent. Well, Evaristo, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. And I will put your contact information down below in the description so that people can reach out.
And I will thank you. And I remember you very well for the time you were here. I read all your posts on the blog, and I also check you all the YouTube that you're doing. And they're great. They're marvelous. And I really appreciate that you let people know about Puerto Rico, because this is like La Isla del Encanto, the Chinaman Island. It still is. It's a beautiful place to live. It's a beautiful place to raise your family. You know, I love Puerto Rico. I'm in love with Puerto Rico since I'm not Puerto Rican, actually. I'm Cuban, but I came here in the 70s with my parents. I was just a 10-year-old kid. So I grew up here. I developed my professional career here. And even though I left for a couple of years to live in California, Puerto Rico is my home. And I love Puerto Rico. I'm very, very pleased to be here. And my retirement years are going to be here in Puerto Rico too. So I can tell you, Puerto Rico is the best place to live in the Caribbean.
Yeah, it truly is a special place. And so now we know who your guide to the Puerto Rico can be.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you.
All right.
We appreciated that. We appreciate that.
Thank you.